Okay, well, we want to welcome everybody back. This is Making Biblical Family Life Practical. I'm Hal,
And I'm Melanie.
and we are responding to one of our readers or listeners or friends out there in the great wide world who said, I've heard so many things about regrets that I wish I'd done something differently. Can you give me some encouragement and tell me something that you did that you think, yeah, that was a good decision. I'm glad we did it. Um, you know, Picking up kind of where we left off, one of the things that has been really important to me and even has become more important as we've grown in our family life and our maturity is finding mentors.
Yeah, getting to know, being friends with people who are in the next stage,
Uh,
or at least a few years ahead of us. I think about our friends at Smith's down in Louisiana. I've
yes.
loved
Hmm.
talking to them about this stage of life of having young adults who
Hmm.
are falling in love and getting married and all the travails
So
going on
yeah,
with that. And
yeah.
it's great to have people that have been in the stage a few years longer than we have. And
And that's true no matter what stage you're in. There's always somebody a little farther down the road that you can say, hey, what do I need to know for this next step?
I
You know?
remember when our oldest was a preschooler, we had these friends that had, oh, I don't remember how many boys they had at the time, 4 or 5. That I think they ended up with 8 boys. I may be
I think they
wrong,
had at least 8 boys.
but they had a handful of boys. I had
Yes.
no idea we were going to have 6 boys in a
Yeah.
row.
Yeah.
But it was so awesome to me to talk to her and find out just what's normal.
Uh-huh.
What does life look like with a bunch of boys?
Hmm.
What are some good books I could recommend? She
Yeah.
recommended some books that our kids still love,
Yeah. And
you
oh
know?
yeah. Yeah. And that those kind of things, those are really important. And again, that that's one of the arguments for being involved in a local support group because that's where you find like-minded people who have a little more experience than you do. You may have that in your local church, but I know all the places we've lived, typically the church did not have a great high population of homeschoolers.
Yeah.
That was the local support group brought in 3 or 4 families from each of the churches in the neighborhood, and then you had a critical mass.
Yeah.
So, um, I'm glad that when we started homeschooling, we took a pretty flexible approach. I know there were packaged curricula, that it was like the whole school in a box kind of program.
I've always been more comfortable picking and choosing
Hmm.
what seemed right with different children at different times, and that was kind of a surprise to me. When we started out, I thought I would buy the first grade stuff, and
Yeah,
every child would use that.
yeah.
But kids are not cookie cutter, even in your
They're not
family,
clones, are they?
and some curricula that worked with some kids didn't with others.
Hmm.
But yeah, I'm glad that we didn't tie ourselves to one kind of class or co-op or one kind of curriculum because we've had a wide range of needs in our family. We had one son who was severely dyslexic, another
Hmm.
who was severely dysgraphic.
Right.
You know, Gifted kids that needed extra attention, and it just I think that's one of the huge benefits of homeschooling is the ability to tailor what you teach and the way you teach to each individual child.
Yes, and we've talked with people who are really trying to follow in the footsteps of a friend that they trust, and you realize, you know, the family you're following is very different than the family that you are.
Yeah.
That they are very bookish. Your family is very active, or maybe they're very extroverted. Your family is very shy, or there's serious things that do make a difference. There's not a right or wrong way. That's the one of the important things that we learn.
Yeah.
It's what works in your family with your kids and your teaching style. And you know what? There's seasons in life too, because I think about
That's so
times that we
important.
times that we have struggled, like when we had a child born with a congenital birth defect, and she
I was in
was
the hospital for
oh
weeks,
and
and then you got cancer
and I
not
was
long
in,
after
and I
that,
had
and we were
cancer
over
and
at the hospital doing chemo, and
you know
I, I'm very fond of the Charlotte Mason approach,
yeah.
but we have borrowed ideas from a bunch of different approaches during the course of our homeschooling. Sometimes we've needed to unschool while everybody was stressed out and traumatized over something that was going on, or
Yep.
sometimes we've needed to uh, a traditional textbook approaches work well for kids in high school
Hmm.
for different subjects.
Hmm.
I think that you need to be flexible and you need to be open to saying, this although I love this curriculum, it's not working for this season. And
Right.
we may get back to that. Maybe I need something different for this season. That's okay.
Hmm. Yeah.
You know, you don't. Nobody's grading you on your curriculum, on your curricular purity.
Well, and I'll tell you this, one thing that we noticed time and time again is when you're talking elementary grades or up through middle school, nobody cares. I mean,
Yeah.
nobody ever asks. They never ask, did you finish every exercise or did you skip around when they were in fourth
Nobody
grade?
cares if they did science
Nobody
for
cares.
third grade. I mean, honestly.
Nobody cares. Now, when you get to high school, it becomes a little more, you
Yeah.
have to document more things. But the lower grades, the junior high and lower stuff, I'd say you can relax. Just find
Yeah.
things that work and enjoy it. One thing that anybody that walked into our house would look around and say, "Well, I like your decor. It's early hardback,
Early library.
early library."
Yeah, our house is
We
pretty
are
rough full of books. We have a book problem. We have too many books. We have stacks of books
that
on
is
every
that's
horizontal
crazy talk. There is no such thing as too
surface.
many books.
Well,
There's let's see.
it's interesting. I read some research recently how that
Yeah.
really was fascinating to me.
Uh-huh.
The number of books in the house says more about your literacy than how many years you went to school. For example,
Hmm.
this research showed that someone who has an eighth grade education, who grew up in a house filled with books, has about the same literacy as a college graduate who grew up in a home without books.
Well, I tell you what,
Wow.
we made a decision. In fact, we had a conversation. I remember we talked about this. One of the places we lived was a small town in another part of this state several years ago, and the local library was in the process of culling the children's department. And any of the older books that hadn't been checked out recently, they were discarding them. They were putting them in the
Oh,
used book sale because they
they got
wanted,
rid of so many great
the
books.
kids were looking for more colorful things with current celebrities and sports biographies and stuff, and they weren't keeping good classic children's books. They were just putting them out for sale. And I looked at Melanie at the time. And I said, you know what? We could have the best children's library in this county, and I give you permission to let's go build it.
We
And,
did.
and we did. And so we scooped up all of these
As far
books.
as I know.
Golly, we got fantastic collection of books, and we just bought them, a few at a time at used book sales and
Used book
rummage sales
sales,
and yard
thrift
sales,
stores.
library sales, and all the rest of that.
And you know what? Our
And,
our adult kids
hmm.
love those books, and
Yep.
they've been building up their own libraries. I remember one of them said, "Mom, can you find me the author for this book that I loved when I was a kid?" And it took me forever to find that book, probably 2 years. I don't know. It had been shelved in a kind of remote place, but I finally found it, and he was so excited he ordered it that day.
Hmm.
You
Well,
know,
there's a proverb that says, "In all of your getting, get wisdom." And I
yeah,
think that's an investment in the future, buying quality books, even if they're used, even if they're worn, but get lots of good
that's
books.
a good segue, Hal, to something that I think I am the most glad about.
What's that?
I am really glad that we made discipling our kids the most important thing in our homeschool.
And we always intended to do that, but I didn't really connect it up that the homeschooling was so interwoven with it.
Well, homeschooling won't save your kids.
No, it doesn't.
Only
It doesn't.
Christ saves your kids, all right?
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah. Your phonics program is not going to send them to perdition or to paradise, but
but homeschooling redeems a ton of time. And the critical thing about that
mhm,
is research has shown that the biggest influence, the biggest
mhm,
commonality that people who were raised in Christian homes who are still walking with Christ as adults
mhm.
have is that they had a good relationship with a Christian mother or a Christian father.
and,
And
and and so much of that relationship is built on time.
well, it takes time to build a relationship with kids.
Mhm.
And it's really hard when they're gone all day and they've got a ton of homework and you only have a little bit of time to spend with them and you're exhausted from working all day and it's just hard. And
Well,
homeschooling
mhm,
means that you get back into the family sphere of influence
right.
a lot of hours each week.
Well, and here's another thing too, and take this as an encouragement out there, folks. Um, we realize that if you have some minor relationship stress going on, There's some relief if you think you can put your child out by the curb and the big yellow truck picks them up and they're out of your hair for a few hours. Let somebody else deal with the problem. But that means you're not getting the problem dealt with. And
It
when
does.
when your kids are at
And
home
you're
with you,
substituting peer influence
yeah, when
for the
you're
family influence.
it's very easy to slip into that. But when your kids are at home, you realize really quickly if you don't deal with it, it doesn't get dealt with at
You
all.
have to deal
That
with it.
nobody else is going to step in and take care of your responsibility there.
And
So,
it gives you the time that you need
mhm,
to read to them, to hold them when they're sad, to talk to them about the crazy dreams they're having.
yeah,
When your son comes in all excited about wanting to build a rocket or something, you can sit and talk to him and listen to him. It just it gives you that time back. And how I think that's the thing I'm the most grateful for is what it has meant to our family in discipleship and also in family relationships that I think are a part of discipleship. Our adult kids are each other's best friends. And they have lots of other friends too. Our kids are
oh,
super socially
right.
active.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
But, they help each other, they take care
mhm,
of each other. So it's not at all unusual for one of our grown kids to call and say, Mom, could you transfer some money from my account to my brother's account? He's having a tough time.
yeah,
You know, they're looking out for each other. And
mhm,
the closest that they have as siblings, the
mhm.
closest that we have with them, and how the Lord has used those relationships in their spiritual life, I think that's the thing I'm the most grateful for
I am
in our
too. I
homeschooling.
am too. When the scriptures say that we're to speak of the word of God when we rise up and when we lay down and when we sit together at the table and we walk in the way. Yeah, I mean that is so much easier to do when you're spending all day long. When you are sitting up and rising up and lying down and walking the way together because you're together,
Yeah,
and they get to see us struggle with our own doubts and our fears and our stresses and our joys and the rest of that because we're all together so much. And
they
that's an
get
important thing because, you know, how did Jesus train disciples? He didn't pick out a nifty curriculum with workbooks. I mean,
and a quiz on Friday.
but he brought them up close and lived with them and talked to them about
Yeah,
it and said, "Now don't you understand? This is what the scriptures mean here. This is how you apply this in your life." And that's what we're able to do when we have taken on the academic stuff, the math, the algebra, the phonics instruction, all that schoolish stuff is really regaining all of that extra time for us to spend building into the lives and even into the spiritual lives of the children God gives
and
us.
so many of the conversations we have with the kids come up during school time in the midst of what they're doing.
Mhm,
We're reading a book, we're discussing something in history, and somebody has a question,
mhm.
and we start talking. We have real time, or maybe they're showing out. We're not getting much schoolwork done, Hal, but I'm having time to build into their character.
Yeah,
Some of those character building days when you didn't get as much schoolwork done as you planned,
mhm.
I think those are some of the most important parenting days of all.
We ought to talk about that another time
Yeah, we
because
ought to because that's
that
important.
was an important insight and it relieves some of the natural frustration. You feel like we had a wasted day here. No, you didn't. You were working on God's curriculum that isn't in your lesson plan, but
And
it's
I'll tell you
important.
what, Hal, God's curriculum is often different than ours.
Yeah, but it's
And
always right,
it's
and it's
always
always
right,
His
yeah.
timing.
I think
Uh,
the important thing is that we would do it again. We've been homeschooling 25 years,
yeah,
and four of our kids have graduated. We're about to graduate the fifth.
uh,
They've been successful in life. They've done well.
yeah.
Most importantly, they love the Lord, and I'm grateful we've had this time with them. I'm grateful that we've homeschooled.
That was the first
I don't
decision.
feel that way every day, y'all.
You don't always feel it, but you know it.
No, yeah, in the middle
Yeah.
of math, sometimes I'm not feeling it either.
But that's okay. But that's okay because it's true whether you
Oh,
feel it or not. It's
yeah,
true.
it is.
Well, look, I hope that was encouraging. It was good to just think through some of these things. It's good to reflect and say, this has been good. I've enjoyed the journey, and I'm looking forward to the next few years of it. And
Okay.
so, if,
Y'all, please visit our sponsor.
yes,
Thank them for doing this and
mhm.
like and subscribe.
Oh gosh, yes. And you know what? You can subscribe on our YouTube channel, YouTube/Raising Real Men, or you can find us on iTunes for the podcast, iHeartRadio. You can get us on the Android app. I mean, goodness gracious, we're all over the place, and we would love to see you as a regular listener, regular viewer. So,
Okay, take care, y'all.
okay, look, until next time, I'm Hal.
And I'm Melanie.
Thanks for joining us, okay?
Bye, y'all.
Bye-bye.